Hi everyone. To begin, I want to thank you for taking part in this research project. The goal of this short video is to provide an overview of the template we've developed to make sure we're all on the same slide when we're using the template. And the reason for this is that there are so many different ways to use PowerPoint. For example, if you're inserting a new slide, you can just sort of right-click on the background over here and add a new slide, which is great because it gives you another slide of the same layout and template of the one you've currently used. However, there's lots of other ways to do it, and if you want to access some of the new features we have, you need to click on this New Slide button up here, which shows you all the different types of templates or layouts we've developed for this research project. And right in the middle here, we've got the title and content, or the to content that you've probably used for most of your slides. But there's a lot of other ones here. I want to take a little bit of time to go over them, starting with this hook up at the top. The goal of this slide template is to connect the students to the topic, to get them engaged in thinking about the topic. So you might insert something like, how do engineers communicate? Just sort of as a broad question to get them thinking about the topic. And you just leave that up for a bit, and then you maybe paste in some images that show all the different ways that engineers communicate. So we're not just talking about communication, but we're talking about all the different ways. We're not going to be doing grammar and spelling. Well, yes, we are, but we're going to be doing a lot of other things because engineering communication is how engineering work gets done. Similarly, there was another layout here very similar to that, the anecdote. The difference between the anecdote and the hook is the anecdote will happen in the middle. When I'm teaching software engineering, after teaching a theory, I'll often pause and introduce an anecdote about how something happened when I was doing software engineering. Often they're mistakes where we didn't do something we should have, because we learn just as much, if not more, from our mistakes. But they can also be more formal anecdotes or examples. For example, I might insert something that looks kind of like this, where I actually have a very formal example. But again, the idea is to connect theory to practice by using a relevant story. We have lots of other different templates we can use here. We've got a number of different ways we can do questions. We can do questions which only use a small part of the slide. We can do questions that look more similar to our standard bulleted slide. So there's lots of different ways we can enter questions. And the idea behind this is just to remind you that maybe you should have some questions. And there's even a different one at the end for summary questions at the end. When you end your lecture, here's the things you want your students to remember. But perhaps one of the most important aspects of this template is the lesson objective slide. You should start the lesson with a lesson objective. You don't have to have a slide for it, but the goal of this is twofold. First of all, it helps the students understand, what are we going to do today? What are you expecting of me today? But secondly, and probably just as importantly, it provides you with a reminder of what the goal was. If your goal is to provide the ability to recall the factors in a stress analysis, why are you teaching at the evaluate level? So it lets you rethink and refocus and make sure that your lesson content aligns with your lesson goal. And lastly, there is one other slide here I want to talk about briefly, and it's the pause. Sometimes when we're teaching, there's a lot of content. Sometimes students get overwhelmed. Often it can help if you just pause for a second. Let the students think. You can ask a reflective question. You can take a break. But this is just a reminder that, maybe sometimes a pause helps with learning. And I just want to thank you for taking part in our research project again. If you've got any questions, don't hesitate to give myself an email. And thanks again.